Good evening, everybody. Lovely to hear you all. It's 1:30. It's a bit later than 1:30. It's the March meeting, and we're about to start. Apologies.
Apologies from Polly Costello, who's fallen over and injured herself, and Steve George.
Reports from County. David, you've got something for us.
Well, Chairman, we sent you a little letter recently for the council tax. I can only apologise for the fact that we haven't put it up.
Feel free.
It's rather sadly, we think, and I've now come to the conclusion that the local government finance, the way we collect money, the way we spend it, is not fit for purpose. We cannot carry on the way we are. We currently have got up to spending nearly 70% of our budget on care, either for adult care, which is my responsibility, and as you would know from the press, ever more people come into our care. We currently look after about 6,500 people with funded care. That goes up almost daily, but rather more importantly at the moment, the children in care. We are heavily overspending, as are most other First Division local authorities, on the issue of children in care. Neither the children in care nor the adults have we any choice but to look after them. So we've raised the council tax as much as the government will allow us to raise it without a referendum, but I fear it's still probably not quite enough to keep us going. But we will do the best we can. Government fortunately gave us, I think, £83 million today. It's strange the way local government finances work, because we've been struggling and suddenly they give us £83 million to improve and indeed enhance the Bridgewater Taunton corridor, which you and I might think was the AM5, but it's actually the A38. And it's tied in with the Garden Town initiative that Taunton Dean and Sedgemoor and ourselves put forward. It was a competitive bid and we were successful. So that helps a little. I know it sounds like a huge amount of money to most people, but £83 million builds 6 schools, doesn't build an awful lot of road. But we will see, we will carry on. So I just thought I'd say that. Now, on your own particular issues, and it's a shame Steve's not here this evening, because I met with, I don't know whether anybody else has, I suspect Steve has, met with your new traffic engineer, Kat Tyson, basically to try to tell her that I won't ring her up every day asking her to do things like most of my colleagues. But if I asked them to do something, I'd like to feel it was important. So the issue of your the issue of your Darth Vader at the top of Billings Hill came into play, and she said, "Well, I'm not sure about that." I said, "Well, the gaffer came and said, oh, we'll look into that." She said, "Oh, I'm not sure we do that sort of thing anymore." But what she said she would do is to look at the possibility of actually changing the junction, actually widening the road, because I actually don't think, and I hope you'd agree, maybe you disagree, but I have to say that I don't think, even if we put a concrete wall on one side of the road, well, to correspond with a concrete wall on the other side of the road, which is what's forcing the traffic to cross the grass verge, we will actually stop them doing it, because sometimes they've got nowhere to go. So I put it to you, we're having a little look at whether we could widen that corner, or indeed cut that bit of corner off. So it may be something you wish to discuss when I'm not here, and come back to me whether you think that's a good idea or not. Because you know the inevitable will happen, because then it will make people go faster round the corner. So that tends to be what happens. You do one thing and it creates another issue. But it would certainly tidy up that top of the hill.
Oh, it's a dreadful mess.
So Kat's gone away to look at that for you.
That's good news.
I noticed that you had a report coming up a bit later, and I don't want to sort of, talking about speed indicator devices in the recent SAP meeting. Frankly, if you understand our policy on speed indicator devices, you're a better man than me, because I'm still a little bit in the dark. I've got one parish council who's been trying to buy one for 8 years. and for whatever reason they keep putting forward arguments why they can't buy one. In fact, 8 years ago when they wanted to buy one, they cost about £4,000 each. Now they could buy 4 or 5 and put them all around the village, but it's a bit of a mystery. And the recent letter that came out with, I guess, your recent speed indicator device seemed to suggest that we were just carrying on as normal. The SALT meeting has suggested that you might like to put £100 a year in and you will get together with others and move them around, but very unsatisfactory, I'm afraid. I will try and seek clarity.
Thank you.
And one bit of sad news, the man with I thought the most appropriate name for a chap who was in charge of speeding, Dave Brabham, is retiring on Friday, so that's really rather sad.
We knew that.
Quite happy to take questions.
Right, have you got any questions for David?
No, just to say, I think the idea of widening the road at Billings Hill is a very good one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, maybe the clerk can stick it on the agenda at for the next meeting or something, and just maybe your highways subcommittee could
Yes.
look at it.
There's a meeting in May with the Highways Committee.
Okay. Well, that's fine. Okay.
Thank you, David. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman. If there's nothing else, I'll leave you to it then.
Thank you. Lovely. Nothing from Polly. So, do we have any declarations of interest? Oh yeah, right.
Thank you.
Okay. Minutes of the meeting held 21st of February.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Hang on, I have declaration of interest, you ignored me.
Sorry. What one was it, man?
Well, it depends. Have you had a letter from Alison Crooks? I can't see it.
No.
Yes, it's on the front in front of you.
Is it?
No, on this one here.
Oh, I didn't see that. Oh, well, I've got an interest. I don't know if it's a conflict of interest, but I do have an interest in Coombe Lane.
Is
It's not on the agenda.
Is it pecuniary?
What do you mean by that?
Is it that, do you benefit from or suffer from?
No.
Right, okay.
No.
Right, it's not on the agenda, so we can leave
Okay.
it out. But yeah, that's worth my knowing. Thank you
All right.
very much. No public. So, can I sign these minutes? Is that all right?
Yeah.
It's a public record.
Oh, I see. Right, matters arising. We only actually have one, which is the speed indicator devices. Steve George went to a meeting. He's produced a document, which hopefully you should all have.
Would you like to take one and pass them round, please?
I think David's summary was very, very accurate. Actually, I think I would agree with it. We can either spend in excess of £1,000, or apparently we can chuck in £100 and per unit, and we can share them with other parishes, and they will pick them up and move them and whatever. But let's wait for Steve, because see if he's got a definitive understanding. But if he's not here, I think is it okay if I adjourn this one to next time?
Yes.
Yeah, he
Financial matters, accounts, look like they're sorted, are they okay?
They're all okay, Chairman. Sorry.
The dinner in January, that's January this year, it's March this year?
Yes, indeed.
That's right, that's for 3 months.
Yes.
That's all right, I understood that.
Okay. Commenting on an application for a licensed premises at Orchard Farm, Middlestone.
I think I've circulated the details of this, Chairman. The new application being made, it seems, reading through it, that Mr. Lowry just wants to sell beers and ciders at his own premises to people staying on his premises. We've got a choice of making any observations or leaving it to the licensing officer at Sagamore to decide.
Does anybody have a firm opinion about that?
Propose no observations.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Speed indicator devices, that one's put that one back. Future play areas at Blackford and Seal. I haven't really got much to put in on this. Have you got anything, Alex?
Well, the Blackford play area is much less used than it was because the car park's been locked by the Village Hall Committee, and it is difficult finding people who want to act on the play area committee. Currently we have one, who's a lady in Blackford, but she doesn't really know what to do. And the position, as I understand it, is the responsibility for the maintenance of the play area rests with the parish council. But what happens is the play area committee is a sort of locally authorised committee that does fundraising and sort of takes on responsibility for trying to raise funds. And because the whole thing is not very used very much now, and because it's difficult to find people who want to represent it, I'm anticipating that they're not going to be able to raise funds at all, and it will actually fall back on the parish council.
Seal is very similar. We have a committee of 3, but one of those is me. The other one is a lady who lives up in Mudgley, and she really isn't active on the committee. She really just goes around just to check that the equipment is reasonably ship-shape, because you're meant to do it on a monthly basis or something like that. So in between the annuals, she does that, which is very helpful because she's ex-health and safety at work, so she's a really useful person. And the chair lady is much like yours, up to her neck in crocodile sort of thing.
Do you have an idea of how much it costs to maintain the thing?
No, I don't.
So I was just thinking about that before I came in, and the problem is that the small bits of maintenance don't cost very much, you know, having a bench fixed and stuff like that. But if you've got a major piece of play equipment that needs to be fixed, it runs into thousands. And I was trying to play with figures in my head as to what it probably costs on average a year, and I'm in the region of sort of 2,000 to 3,000 a year at the moment, if we maintained it properly.
We have a major piece of equipment which is bust, and we sort of ignored it, I'm afraid to say. There was a time when we sort of ring-fenced it to stop people using it, but they've done what kids do, they've ripped the ring fencing off, and they carry on using it. I mean, it's not going to break and kill anybody, but someone could fall and skank themselves quite easily. So really we need to take that piece out. That won't be cheap, I got a feeling.
Well, it won't be cheap. I've got a feeling that Blackford could rejuvenate itself. The problem at the moment is the car parking issue. And there's a campaign running at the moment to try and get the Village Hall Committee to change their decision. I think the local press are involved, and you know, there's petitions and things like that. And if it happened that they did reverse their decision and that became more widely used, it would be more easy to get people who are interested in maintaining it and forming a committee.
Well, why do you say that, just out of interest?
Why do I think it'd be more easy?
Yeah.
Well, if the thing's not used, people don't say, oh, my children use that all the time, I'm pleased to help out.
It's not the case in Seal. Seal is used most pickups and drop-offs.
Really?
Yeah.
It's funny that you can't get people. I mean, it is difficult getting people to help. Even when we had a running committee, we only had 4 or 5 people on it. But there's usually somebody who's prepared to step forward. But it's kind of depressing at the moment.
It is, yeah.
Who does own the land at Blackford and Seal?
And Blackford is owned by the parish council.
It is.
That's why it's declared an interest.
No, that's right.
Can I just ask Clark, to you, Mr. Chairman, my reading of the is it's leased from the Bruton estate. They don't own it.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a technicality. Yeah, obviously through this latest thing that's going to be on television and everything else.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, yes, it's 5 mentions from Peter Bird's letter.
Oh, he sent me emails to the local television.
Well, emailed, yes.
Whether they'll pick it up or not is another thing.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
You'll be on TV.
It's offered to help on the committee if necessary.
Well, yeah. The committee at the moment is Joe Durant, who's a local doctor, and me. But I'm only there because I'm nominated from the parish council.
Joe's got to think that sexist, hasn't she?
Yeah, but interestingly enough, that letter that we had from the village hall committee said that a member of the play area committee is entitled to sit on the village hall committee.
Yeah, they've been invited.
Yeah, invited, yeah. I never knew that, so we might be able to sit on the committee and one voice against many, I'm sure.
Well, no, I don't think it would do. It would be one voice. I think there's one or two people from Blackford who.
I thought it was unanimous, because when you had the vote, you said it was just you and your wife who voted against it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, what are we going to do about this, people? We're just going to watch it for a bit longer, see if anything materialises.
Well, my view of the Blackford area is you should watch it and see, because I feel quite strongly, I know Peter has opposite views, which obviously I respect, but to my point of view, there's a developing road safety hazard there, and I'm hoping that the village hall committee will look at it again in the light of the road safety thing and reverse their decision before somebody gets knocked over. And if that's the case, then we'll get a bit more interest with the summer coming in. People will start to use the play area more, get more people involved in the committee, and we can start it going again.
Okay, I wish you well.
About
Hang on just a minute.
With Theo, certainly, if you've got a health and safety issue with a piece of kit, to get quotes to
yeah.
get it out.
Yeah, you need to get that fixed.
Yeah,
You need to get
that out.
it out or fixed. How much is it going to cost to get it fixed?
It's not repairable.
Replaced?
We are looking at replacing it with a much more simple piece of kit. But the problem is getting the old one out. It's metal set in a concrete plinth. It's fairly substantial.
But I mean, Rod and I have slightly different views about this. But my view is that the responsibility for maintaining the play areas sits with the parish council, flat like that. And if you get a bit of assistance from a local fundraising committee, that's fine. But in this particular case, it seems to me that you should find out how much it costs and put it in front of the parish council and say this is what it's going to cost.
I agree.
Because health and safety, you just can't go around.
I agree with that.
I think you're right.
I wouldn't disagree with that, Alex.
Okay.
Can I have a word on that,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman? Is it the wheel
No.
we're talking about?
No, it's that rocking thing. It looks sound and what have you. One person stands one side, one person stands the other. Unfortunately, what they're standing on is rotted out. And sooner or later something horrible will happen, I suspect. But there's fall and scattered legs, that's what's going to happen. Okay, we can watch. Well, I'll have a few words with Theo committee and just push them gently into cutting it out and just getting rid of the blooming thing altogether before someone does get hurt. Glenys, thinking about the school, any movement there by the school at all?
No, the governor's meeting was going to be on Monday, but it was postponed.
They are collecting funds for a different thing, aren't they? They're trying to get a new MUGA, is it called? MUGA. Yeah. So they're
Multi-use games.
Area.
their aim is different
Very different.
to us.
So what's that going to help with the cars?
But it's not. It's going to help the sports facilities at the school.
School as opposed to helping with the traffic management.
Right, okay, we have a decision. We're going to watch that one, but watch both of these for a while and see what movement we can make in the meantime. We move on to item number 11, please. Making a donation to the finger post appeal. Suzanne talked about this. I got us into a muddle last time, didn't I, by not voting, and then turns out, by the way, boys and girls. No, turns out, boys and girls, I can do that.
Yeah.
The chairman can not cast a vote in the first one, and then can cast a deciding vote in a subsequent one. Sorry about that.
It was my fault.
Don't worry about it. It was my fault because I'm supposed to know.
You're not going to hang anybody
So anyway,
off a finger post.
I think Rob knows more about it than I do.
I'm just collecting the money, Chairman. The moment the funds so far that we've collected just over £6,000 from voluntary subscriptions, and having paid all the bills, we've got just short of £3,000 left to spend. I spoke to David Ewins this morning. He's got 2 more posts at Blackford. One at Blackford and one at Rughill being done.
okay.
And we should still have a couple of thousand, I think, left in the kitty. There's one. I know the one at Blackford's going to cost £500 by the church, and as I said, the Rughill one's a bit more expensive. But at the moment, they seem to, how many funds are coming in? This week alone, I've had 400 pound this week and £100 last week. So it's not,
Amazing.
Can you remind me, Chairman, please, of the proposals from last meeting? And my memory is that Suzanne asked for a £5,000 donation, and I rather foolishly counter-proposed £2,000, which caused a lot of confusion.
You propose it.
And then
Propose
Edwin
it, defer it for 6
Yeah.
months?
I said.
proposed a deferment.
Edwin proposed to defer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where do we sit now then?
Well, can we take a new, well, do we have to go back to the original proposals, or can we take a new proposal?
Well, I was just wondering whether we could, just as a body, we sponsor one of them. We sponsor one, and then if the money starts to run out, we can sponsor another one. But let everybody know that the Parish Council is sponsoring it, so that makes people aware and publicise it. That was my idea.
Yes, may I just say that what I'm going to do, what I'd like to do is to speak to David Jones and tell him that really we actually need to put the real costs forward into the Wedmore News. People have no idea how much these things are costing, and it's very kind that they're donating £50 or whatever. But I think a lot of people, if they actually knew how much it was costing, would donate a bit more if they knew that it was so expensive.
What are the projected total costs for all of the things?
15,000.
How much do we have?
Six.
But it's still coming in.
it comes in day by day. It's
What
quite
sort of
amazing.
rate?
Well, I say I've had £100 this morning and £200 from another business in the village yesterday. £100 from another individual last week.
So a couple of £100 a week.
Yeah. They're not short of money at the moment. That's what. And I say I spoke to David this morning, and
So what would be your proposal then, Susan?
Well, I think perhaps we will defer it
I think it's
at the moment, unless, I mean, it would be lovely if you did sponsor
Just say, like, put in the Wedmore Island of Wedmore News that when we have our little thing, that we are sponsoring a particular one that maybe is an expensive one.
Or a listed one?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Well, the listed one is the one at just opposite you.
Is it?
One of them.
Oh, is
Yes.
we've got two listed ones. One at Sand.
Oh, right, okay. Right. Well, defer decision for now.
If they run,
All right.
I propose that we sponsor a listed finger post.
Can't they? I'm sorry, Chairman. The listed ones will be paid for by the Heritage
That was a
Committee.
good, that was a good thing.
There
Well,
are
we
two of them.
sponsor one of the more expensive ones.
that's the one down here on the corner being done.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, come
I
on.
still
So
going to
is
go
that-
on my proposal of
Yes.
deferring it for 6 months.
Say again, but Edwin, sorry, I missed that, mate.
I still go on my.
Yeah.
I'm going to second Edwin's counter proposal.
Yeah.
So we're going to defer it for 6 months.
Yeah.
But I mean, we are going to put money in as and when it begins to dry out.
Dry
That was
out,
always
yeah.
the intention. You know, honestly, I'm
Well,
not trying to
I
wriggle.
withdraw my...
I'm not wriggling, it's just that, you know, I'm worried about cutting off the supply if there seems to be a bit of a cash gap. That's what's concerning me, that's all.
At the end of the day, we might well be called upon to
Yeah.
short.
Sure, it will be. Okay, is that all right? Can I?
Third decision for how many
6
months?
months.
6 months.
Here we go.
Right. Update neighbourhood plan.
Right, well, I'm the only one here.
You are.
We had a meeting yesterday, and where we're up to is that we are now preparing a draft plan. And we are hoping that that draft plan will be ready for end of May, beginning of June, which will then be have a 6-week consultation. That consultation is open for 6 weeks. We're looking to get a stall at the street fair so that we can have, you know, people, because that will come within that time frame. There is talk about maybe putting something online before the end of May, but that would probably be just online and maybe on you know, posters or not a leaflet drop out like we did before, because it does cost, you know, quite a lot of money. And also, Bob is going to put together for our planning meeting the position, the exact position of the neighbourhood plan group on Holdenhurst.
Okay,
Okay?
yeah, thank you. Alex?
For the planning meeting, it's not so much the position of the neighbourhood plan group that is relevant, because the neighbourhood plan has not gone through consultation, and so can't be policy.
No, it can't be policy. But
And so what we have is we have a position where we're caught at the moment in a gap,
Yeah.
where the local plan has been consulted by Sedgemoor, and therefore that can be regarded as policy. And we would naturally, but we've made the decision to produce a neighbourhood plan, and the neighbourhood plan, when it's produced and gone through consultation, would also become policy, and that would allow us to say where we want to have housing and where we don't.
Yeah.
Because it's lagging, and it's naturally a lag, it's not a criticism in any sense, we have the Holdenhurst proposal that's in front of us in a window which would not normally exist, where there is now policy in the district council for them to put up 100 odd houses in the Wedmore area, and we haven't actually formed our policy, and so we can't wave a piece of paper and say it's contrary to our neighbourhood plan policy to put it there.
No.
Although it may well be when it comes out, but I don't know. But what we can do is, if there has been a survey properly conducted, and we have survey information from the parish that says, for instance, maybe 95% of the parish want to have a development of Holdenhurst, then that is what we call a material consideration, which we can and should take into account when we're approving it. So what we really need is not so much the neighbourhood plan committee's view, but we need the raw data from the surveys they've conducted.
That's what he's going to
because
give you
that's the material. That's the important thing.
Yeah.
The neighbourhood plan committee's opinion is
Yeah,
with
no, it's
respect.
not just the opinion,
not
it will be
important.
all the reasons and the evidence.
It's not the reasons or the opinion. The
It's the
really
evidence.
important thing is that we get hold of the evidence,
Yes.
the results of the survey, because then we can have an evidential approach, and we can go back and say the parish, 85% of the parish think that what we actually need is expensive housing for middle-aged people at Holdenhurst, and then we can't object to it at all. On the other hand, if they go back and say 95% of the parish think that there is no requirement at all for expensive housing for the elderly, then that's a material consideration which we have to take into account. And I really want that piece of data. With very great respect to the Neighbourhood Plan Committee, the rest of it actually isn't relevant in planning terms.
Yeah.
Well, that's the message I'll give back, but I think that's where Bob's coming from anyway.
Very happy to hear what's going to go, what their intentions are, but it has no weight in
No, but
planning.
we really want to, as you say, first of all, in that will be the stance, and also then there will be the evidence and how we came to that.
Yeah.
How we came to the stance as well, through all the various questionnaires, matrix examinations, and comments from the various events.
It would be nice to hear, but the really important thing is not the stance,
No.
because that has no relevance at all to the planning application. The really important thing is the survey results, because we can use that in parallel. But I understand there's a housing needs survey that
Yes.
Sedgemoor is producing, which may have some results, and hopefully that will be consistent with what the neighbourhood plan says. But if there's any conflict, the neighbourhood plan necessarily is going to carry greater weight, because it's local as opposed to a Sedgemoor thing.
The Sedgemoor Housing Needs Survey would be local.
To Sedgemoor though.
Oh,
Oh, it's to Wedmore.
Yeah,
Well,
sorry.
not
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Wedmore
It's not
housing.
It's
doing
only
it.
Wedmore. Well, that will be, and hopefully it's consistent in that.
Which is why I'm so, yeah, A is consistent, but
Yeah.
B we get.
Either of those are material considerations, and speaking from the point of view of the planning committee, we need this information, because otherwise what we'll be doing is making decisions based on our own personal prejudices and not based on what the village have said.
I agree.
I don't know whether you'll get the results of the Wedmore Housing Needs Survey in time for the 11th of April.
No, you won't.
Planning
Well,
meeting.
I'm told we might.
Cross your fingers, you might.
you might get a running total. You
Yeah.
may not get a definitive final result, but they may be prepared to give us a running total where they are at the moment. If there's a significant move, that would be very helpful. And if the neighbourhood planning group have got similar data, that will lend strength to the ELBA. But you've got to keep your fingers and toes crossed. And we need to speak to Duncan Hardy about that.
And generally, while we're on the subject, can I make a plea to members who are on the planning committee that the next meeting is considering both Cross Farm and the Holden House development, so we've got a biggie.
Yeah.
And it would be good if we could arrive at that meeting informed. And I noticed that several members, Polly particularly, has sent out emails saying this is how I feel about it. And I don't actually think that's a bad thing. I don't know what the policy is generally about that, but it seems to me that if we can have a communication by email where people say, this is what I think, this is what I think, then at least we can start to consider it, rather than having a shindig from ground zero right in the middle of the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
That would be very helpful.
We've only been asked to comment on Holden House, haven't we?
Nope. Cross Farm's up next
Cross
time.
Farms then.
Cross Farmers matters in next time in April as
When is
well.
this meeting?
April
11th of
11th.
April.
Oh, no, I haven't seen that. Okay, can I move on a little bit now then, please? Questions raised by councillors? 13?
It is carrying on from this theme. It is about what Duncan Harvey said at the extraordinary general meeting about how important it is for these people, for the people who want to register for a affordable home, to be registering, not registering, you know, to be registering now. And he did promise that we could have, you know, he put on a seminar type thing where people could go in and need help. Well, can we take him up on that?
Yeah, definitely. I think.
Can we sort of arrange for that to happen?
Yeah, but that was part of the reason I asked him toward the end of the meeting, where do we as a parish council go next? And he said, we need the results of the housing needs survey, and then you can make decisions about what you do next. So, yeah, he's looking at 6 weeks. I'm hoping we can push him to less, and he did seem to suggest that Esther might get something out before 6 weeks. But yes, I think
So
soon
you
after.
don't think he'll do it before the 6 weeks?
Well, it might be a waste of time. I mean, if,
Not really.
From a legal point of view, the part completed housing needs survey is probably going to be less effective than a fully completed, properly conducted neighbourhood plan survey,
I agree.
to be quite honest.
Yeah. The point is, so if the outcome of the neighbourhood planning group or the housing needs survey turns around and says actually we don't need affordable housing, why the hell are we getting people to register? I think it's unlikely, but you know, why are we dragging them down here for an afternoon to register? So let's find out what the result is,
Okay.
and then I
And
think
how are we going to get this result?
word of mouth. Go on.
Well, I said to him, what we really need is a great big banner in the village, just so that all the young people could see it and do something about it.
Oh, sorry, you're not about. What you mean coming to
The
the school, the survey, the registration thing?
Whether we need this affordable housing, who wants it, they must put their names down. We must know exactly who wants it, how many want
And
it.
you are correct. I think you are correct.
Facebook.
Well, you know, an awful lot of people don't look at these things.
I know.
A lot of the young
But it's
And I just feel
people
if there's something big in the village, a big poster, then at least not an excuse that nobody hasn't seen the necessity to register.
I think you're right, Suzanne. Yeah, when we have a time and a date, I think we will do our damnedest to promote it.
and the banners are cheap.
Yes,
They're
Or
not
local.
expensive.
Local pubs.
they're here. We can do this. I'm certain sure.
But if we need something in 6 weeks' time, we need to be doing it today, tomorrow.
I don't think so, because I think banner production is pretty quick. Yeah, I think we can do
Yes,
that.
but if,
We can't make a
They-
banner,
they
Suzanne,
need-
without giving a time and a date and a place. Really.
but I thought we knew it. I thought we knew it.
We don't have a time, we don't have a date, and we don't have a place. Never mind.
But
He made the offer.
all we need to know is how many people want it.
Well, it's going to every house in the parish. The housing needs in the Wedmore parish to every
Is it?
house in the
Yeah.
parish. That's what they say. So they couldn't, they should all get a copy of it and know that they have to fill it out.
Well, let's have the read it.
Yeah, that's.
Any more issues by councillors?
Oh, yes. I noticed that outside the George we've got all that water again.
Yeah.
Yeah, the environmental health officer has served an enforcement notice on the owner of the George Hotel and BT and given them a month to resolve the issue.
I thought they had resolved it.
Well, I haven't seen any running recently, but
Yes, it is.
It's running again.
No,
It's
they
stopped.
haven't.
well,
If
there's
you
an
see what I mean.
enforcement notice been served. That's not something to do.
Yeah, it's running again.
again,
Yeah. So I felt they did have.
All right.
It's been done.
Have we got any more questions, please?
Yeah, it's Ricky put online, did everybody see
Yeah.
the pictures he put online? But was there any text with that? I didn't get, I just got pictures.
No, I think that was for us to review where we told him the leaks were and to confirm that they were in the right place. So that's, he's not just sending that.
But there were red lines, but it didn't say where the actual drains were.
No, it indicates the position of the stretch of road where there was a problem. I think the suggestion was that when highways are in the area, they will go along those lengths of road and they should be fairly obvious, really.
Yeah, I took photos. and stuff,
Okay.
so-
Can I say they've been working on our road today on the drains?
Have they?
Yes, so they must be around the village working on them.
Any more?
That's inside the school, you know, with Whitehall.
Can I move on to the next one? Correspondence? Oh, sorry, Judy.
Yeah, the letter from Alison Crooks.
Yeah.
It only came in yesterday, by the way.
Oh, right, well, I'm just wondering, what I could say to reassure her.
Well, I've written to her and said
Ah.
I will pass it to the chairman of the planning authority, which I've done this evening,
Right.
and the chairman of the council, who's got a copy, take away.
Just, I think.
Well, I say it only came in yesterday.
Okay.
Right.
I don't receive much reassurance, apart from that.
Oh, have you got it?
Is that one?
Cobbler's Cottage.
Can we hear
Yes.
it?
Yes, what she's saying basically, Chairman, just to summarise the letter, is that when we consider the planning application, could we perhaps make our views known that she would rather they didn't use Coombe Lane as an access for the developer's traffic to access the site. That's summarising
That'll be
basically.
sensible.
Yeah.
Well, I think she wants to be
That's
reassured because contractors have been using the lane up to now, for all the sort of surveys and things, and I think that's why Alison wants to be reassured that, that won't be happening when the big plant starts coming down.
Spoke to Acorn today, and their access from Coombatch will be opened up imminently.
Well, that's what I thought, because I saw that netting, and I thought, well, they're obviously getting ready to do
They've
something.
had permission from Sedgemoor to go on and take that hedge down,
Right.
so to form an access, so
Yeah.
that will be happening
I
in the
rather
next
thought
couple
that
of
might
weeks.
be the case, but it'd be nice for you to tell us.
They have to put, Mr Chairman, they have to put the infrastructure in, so they go in on the site themselves. Once planning is given,
Well, that's
they're
all.
not allowed to go anywhere else to it. If they go anywhere else, they can be prosecuted.
Well, that's very reassuring, thank you, Jessica.
That's how they have to develop estates wherever they are. Well, yeah.
We're still on.
Yeah, cross farm, that's it. Neil, you're still talking with.
Is this something that we're going to be coming on to?
Oh, really?
I've got under the housing.
Okay.
Neil's got a report to give.
Oh,
so,
brilliant,
okay, that might short circuit it.
brilliant.
I owe you guys an apology. Forget it. It's just that I did go to a cluster meeting and I have been to another meeting.
Bus meeting.
Oh yeah, the bus meeting. I have written out the report and you forgot to print it.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So I will send you another copy and we'll put it through the emails to you. And you can read it at your pleasure. It's not a lot and it's not that interesting. And it's rather than me go through it again. Can we move on to committee reports? We got cemetery.
Yes, I think, well, Rod, you know more about the pipe that's gone.
Yeah, the
down
pipe
there.
has now been put underground at the cemetery. Just needs 3 taps fitted. I've been up this morning because the girl there today. It's all ready to go. I think just putting the taps up. So we're
What we were doing underground.
Well, they decided, well, because they cut the hedge down, and yeah, once they cut the hedge down, there was a frost possibility. So,
Excellent. So that's going to change the price.
slightly, he said.
Okay.
I've arranged a working party out there for sort of 2/3 of the way through April on a Saturday morning.
This
And it'll be in the Isle of Wedmore News, so, yeah. Great to see you.
Facilities
Yeah,
allotments.
see you there.
Nothing, Chairman.
It's good for us.
Finance general purposes. No.
No.
No. Neil, you're on, mate.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to add anything
No, you carry on with my question.
before I sort of go on really. Firstly, apologies for not being around. I've been poorly, so apologies about that, and sort of trying to pick the baton back up really. I know Nick's been talking to Acorn and various people regarding the Cross Farm. So I spoke to Ed Lewis, Land and Planning Manager from Acorn. Spoke to him again today. Reserve matters still awaiting from Sedgemoor, so they all seem quite positive with the feedback that they've generally got from the village following their consultation at the village hall. A few things for them to consider with regard to the house type, layout and one thing or another, but nothing that they were overly concerned about. As I say, works to the entrance from Coombatch will be starting imminently. I don't know if everyone's seen the bird netting.
Yeah.
They have had special permission to start that from the council, so I'm led to believe that could possibly be next week.
Okay.
So
Are they going to inform the people on Coombatch about that?
I did ask that, and I thought that I was under the impression they were going to do a letter drop.
Yeah, I think they should.
But there are probably 4 or 5 cars that park there that actually don't belong to the residents of Coombatch. So,
They don't.
and they're actually
on
parking in
Coombatch.
front.
They're on Coombatch. a lot
They're
of
not.
them.
No, not it's people that drop their cars there in the morning and then get picked up and go off somewhere else.
But people on the other side of the road that don't have any parking also park
Yeah.
there in Coombatch.
So rather than using the car park, they park there and then go on
Always
again.
Parking
So-
down there.
So, might prime Rod for a few phone calls next week, and there'll be some complaints coming in. As we probably said on there's some emails going around, you probably guessed, but Acorn and Blue Cedar are talking,
Fancy.
which I don't think was any secret. Acorn's stance at the moment is they're more concerned with their application than what everyone else is up to. They just want to push theirs through and have a good working relationship with the parish council, and let Blue Cedar do whatever they've got to do.
I think that's sensible.
They're working in with Duncan Harvey, so Duncan seems to be controlling the aspect of regarding money transfer from Blue Cedar and for affordable, but we'll wait and see that one.
When we had that meeting with Duncan Harvey, I mean, there did seem to be quite an appetite for improving the affordable houses and making them, you know, trying to go for that sort of passive house so that they were much cheaper for people to you know, to heat.
Yep.
You know,
They're not certainly not. Acorn aren't against it, but as I say, if it would, they didn't really want to muddy their waters with their application.
No,
So
I
they're-
understand that,
was,
but I mean, you know, if there's a chance
They
of
have
it, it sounds like a good
no
idea.
problem.
It sounds like everybody wins, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, not necessarily everybody wins, because if you take the money from Blue Cedar and give it to Acorn for to make them passive houses, what happens is that Blue Cedar effectively
Well, they-
provide no affordable housing on their developments, so we
They
lose
actually-
what we'd otherwise be entitled to, which is 4 affordable houses there. We get no extras on Cross Farm, and the only difference is that we get passive houses, which is good for the Green Group, but it costs a lot more to create a passive house, to build a passive house.
Yeah, but it's not just the
But
green
it's-
group.
yeah.
It's people who live in them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, okay, people are living in them as
Well,
well, so it
so-
might be cheaper to operate, but it's also a darn sight more expensive to build.
Well, that's why we've been given the
Just
money.
can I
Yeah.
actually
We
question
haven't been
you
given the money.
on the
Well,
building?
that's why we would be given the money, that's why we would be doing it.
That's what we were told, wasn't it?
Yes. But in any case, all this business about all these affordable houses, we still don't know how many we need, it seems to me.
That's
There's
not
no
the point of
data.
housing needs.
Good point.
This is
Absolutely.
another point, was they were
Really
waiting on the
could be
housing needs as
Yeah.
well, so
Yeah.
this could clarify, you
Yeah.
know, for a lot really.
Good.
Can I just stick in 3 Aprons at this point? There was some confusion, I think I was delusional, about just how much money we were likely to be getting from Blue Cedar. I had an idea on the basis of numbers that I think actually Blue Cedar gave us. Alex had a different idea, so Neil had another different idea. I think Polly was probably closest to the likely truth. I wrote a slightly snotty letter to Duncan Harvey saying, look mate, can you clarify for us, because I really don't know where we are with this. And he said, welcome to my world.
There are so many unknowns, that's the thing,
Yeah.
with regard to pricing, there are.
We've heard some nonsense. So passive house, I wish I'd never used the blooming expression now, because it's just not going to be achievable with
Well,
the sort of sums of money we're likely to be
Yeah, but
getting.
between a normal build, which is a B rating, isn't it?
Yeah.
Normal build. Then there's the A rating. Then there becomes, you go up to passive, don't you? But there's no reason why we couldn't aim for an A rating.
But upscaling, I think, remains an
Upscaling,
option.
Yeah.
but maybe not passive, just to A rating.
They're certainly not against it, certainly not against it. And yes, say Acorn just want to keep and nurture their relationship with PC really, so, and up to now I think, you know, they've conducted themselves very well, so, but, you know,
Yeah,
as
there's a
Alex
bit
said at
of
the planning
concern
meeting, they're
about-
not our friends,
Mm.
they're certainly not our friends, but we've got to work with them.
Acorn appear to have conducted themselves quite well.
Yeah,
I'm less impressed with Blue Cedar.
they definitely have.
Do you have a feeling, Mr Chairman, of the amounts of money involved in this?
No, I really don't. I'm horrified to say I had a figure of between 1 and 1.5 million. Delusional.
See, I had a figure of 300,000 to 500,000.
That's what
Yeah.
I would have said.
No. I don't know how you managed to get to that figure.
Well, I'll tell you how, because their requirement is to, they want to put 11 houses on the site.
Yeah.
The requirement is at least 30% of that should be affordable housing. So 30% of 11 is 3.3, that means 4 houses have to be affordable.
Yes, that's right.
So then you say, what are you going to sell them for? And they say 500, 600,000, which I think is an underestimate. We're talking about 4 new houses in that site. I think they're going for a bit more, but let's take their estimate of 600,000, and you say 4 sixes, that's 2.4 million.
Yeah.
Now, their cheapest way of offloading affordable housing is to sell it at 80% of the market value. So their losses are 20% of 2.4 million, which is 480,000.
Hang on, whoa. Now this is where I got really confused with that email from you. Their losses are...
Well, they have to sell it at 80% of the market value. So if their market value of 4 houses
This is where, yeah, okay.
if their market value of 4 houses is 2.4 million, they have to sell it at 80% of that
Yeah.
as affordable housing. That's the cheapest way of them getting rid of it. The most expensive way of them getting rid of it is to give it to a housing association. Their losses are much, much higher. So that's why they always go for sales rather than housing association. So their cheapest option is to sell those 4 houses each at a 20% discount. And that means that their loss of revenue is 20% of 2.4 million.
No.
10% of 2.4 million is 240,000. 20% is 480,000. So I would say that a realistic to low figure of the cost of revenue to the developers is around about 500,000.
Yeah.
And that you could easily attach a premium to it, because they wouldn't then have the inconvenience and the unpleasantness of having social or social-like housing in their nice development. But I'm in the range of 500,000 as an appropriate figure, and I'm anticipating that they will try and argue that down, because the way that I see this going is they will cost it and say, well, that would be worth $500,000 to us, and therefore what we'll do is we'll offer 200,000 or 300,000 to get the people off our back, and that basically leaves them a couple of 100,000 better off. That 200,000 or 300,000 then goes to developer B, who says, oh, thank you very much, that improves our profits by 200,000 or 300,000. And the net result is no more extra affordable houses. 2 developers who've got more profit than they otherwise would have. And everybody wins except the parish. And I'm personally very against the concept. I know it's very convenient for the district council, it gives them an out, You know, they're happy, the developers are happy, but not necessarily Wedmore being happy.
Take your point.
So that's, in short, is how I got to my figures.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Can I ask, Neil, do they know what housing association they're likely to be with?
No, I did ask and they haven't disclosed yet.
No, no, I just wondered.
No, unfortunately. So,
Have they noted about the entrance? They call it Coombe Gate, don't they?
that's
That
why they're
there are-
opening it up as soon as they can.
Yeah, but that there's a high concentration of the affordable houses in that one corner,
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah, they're
and
going
that's
to work.
not what was.
No, I've mentioned it, that, and they're going to work with the HA with regard to the pepper potting.
Okay.
But I think more or less it'll be really with regard to what the HA
saying.
say, really. Certainly from what Duncan said last week.
Oh, this is about them, yeah, but.
They want them in small
Yeah.
clusters.
Small
Yeah,
clusters
but
as
this
opposed to
isn't
two
a
blocks.
small cluster, this
No,
is
it's
a
14
quarter of
and
the
8.
site with over half the,
I agree.
yep.
It was a point worthwhile making.
So when that, I mean, sorry to keep going,
No.
when it comes before the planning committee, that amendment's not going to be in the plans, is it? Is it? Are they going to work with the housing committee and amend the plans before the meeting?
No.
So we're going to have to approve it on the basis of what's submitted
And,
and the possibility that they might amend it in the future or not, as we choose. Yeah.
So,
Can we make
a comment?
I'm gonna
I'm sure we
s- certainly
can
make comments.
make the comment.
Yes.
Of course we can, yeah.
Yes, we
Will
can.
you be at that planning meeting?
Yes.
Yeah.
And on the planning meeting, carping on, I'll be grateful if everybody who's able to attend could attend, because it's a real biggie.
I have the plans here for you to take back.
to you.
You need a trailer.
I know, I've looked at them online, it's massive.
right.
Absolutely
Bates in the
massive.
ground in October.
Any, anybody else with questions for Neil?
I thought she should go in this month.
Questions for Neil? No, right.
No,
Okay.
no, once
Thanks,
you
Neil.
outline, then you can
Highways, car
put
park.
a full plan in there.
Highways, I know that Steve George held a meeting in my
Yeah.
absence, please take minutes, and there's another one planned for about the second week in May.
Have we got the minutes of that meeting? Because I'm supposed to be doing something and with you and I can't remember what
I've
it is.
just done the draft today and sent them to Steve, so
Okay.
I'll speak to
Planning,
you.
April 11th.
No, I've said it all.
Yeah. You sure?
Plus, seeing as you ask.
That's not the first time I've bitten my tongue tonight. Right, okay. Reports, representatives on committees. Either way more?
No, nothing.
Play areas, oh,
Said it all.
said it all. Have we got anybody from, Neil, anything from Wedmore, do you know?
No.
Right, okay, fine, sure. Sulk. Nothing?
No, nothing. Steve George attended that meeting, that was all.
Yeah, he attended the meeting.
We got the notes on that.
Yeah.
Plainfields management, Laura? Okay. Village halls? Anybody? Anybody
Lots
anyway?
of work being done.
Okay, good. Matters of report, items for next meeting. I've got one, and it's a bit tortuous, but anyway, basically we've been sent a letter asking us as a committee to sign a letter of support for a World War I project. Which is going to involve local children, and it's I think it's been done before, but this is because we're coming up to 100 years now. They're doing another big push. The guy's basically looking for some money from. Yeah. Do you remember the book?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Well, I think this is an extrapolation of the same thing. They're trying to do something to involve the children with World War I, what happened, etc. And he's on a fairly tight schedule. Do you mind if I just sign this document? They're not asking us for money.
It's a letter of support, really.
It's just a letter of support.
I propose
But
you do.
technically,
I
it's
propose,
Chairman.
yes, I second that.
okay. Thanks.
Happy with that.
Thanks very much.
It's involving the children.
No, they don't want money.
No,
They
not
just
yet.
want a letter.
Not yet. That will come, I'm certain sure. But for the time being, yeah. Right, that'll do me. Thank you very much.
One thing from me, Chairman, the cleaner finished this weekend, Joy Gadd. I don't know how long she's been here, but I've gone through the accounts, and the accounts go back to 1999, and she was on the books then. So she's been here quite a while. The normal money is £60 for the 3 months, £20 a month, and I did send a circular around, and I've made the cheque out this one. It's been signed for £100, a sort of £40, thank you very much indeed, present. and a letter, I've sent a letter as well on behalf of all the council, thanking her for all her work. I have a new cleaner starting next month. She lives in Cheddar, she does a couple of houses in Wedmore at the moment, and she'll charge the same as Joy's charge. She only wants to be paid monthly rather than 3 monthly, which is £20 a month, so it's... And the other thing is the internet banking. We had to go ahead. I just haven't had the opportunity to get into Lloyd's in Cheddar and start it up. I tried doing it here, but I just drew a blank. It just wouldn't let me access it to go ahead and progress it. So I have to go into a bank and go through it with them.
Messages from members?
I had somebody from Canberra asked me if we could do anything about speeding motorists down at Canberra.
Through again?
No, further down,
Yeah.
from the bottom on out round the hill, because there are a lot of pedestrians there. Well, not a lot, but you know. And I just wondered if there could be, whether they could have a speed camera there or something else.
You can ask the Roving Motorcyclist Basement Engine. I've got a contact for that. So
That might be worth it.
Yeah. You know, that might
they do Wookie already, and
so be careful.
you will.
One of the things that came up from the highways meeting was the safe routes to school and cycle things that we could put on the agenda for the next time.
It's on the agenda for the next one.
Right, okay,
In
thank you.
fact, it's on the agenda this time.
Yeah, the safe sign.
The cycling awareness signs, but Steve's not here, so...
Sorry, I'll go back on. Okay.
Go back and do it. Why can't we do it?
Say again?
Why can't we do it?
Well, it was something that came up on the highways committee meeting, that the road around Blood Street, whatever it's called, it's very bad, and that's the route that the children cycle to Sex's school on, and so that the
Lot of potholes,
Yeah.
and we feel there should be a notice saying children are cycling, please beware. of
This
them.
was raised at the cluster meeting by Polly.
yeah.
The standard answer is, well, we'll look into it. You don't want to delay it for a month.
No.
Well, because the children will cycle in the summer.
They'll still
won't they?
cycle.
Chairman, we can't put up signs. It's not our, we
No.
haven't got the power to
No,
put
but
up
we
road
can
safety
suggest
signs.
that they put up.
Well, we can suggest the highways department, they do it.
Okay, because I mean, that is the route that the children are asked to cycle to school,
Yes.
rather
Yeah, it
than
is.
the
It's
main
preferred
road,
route.
to get around the back.
It is the preferred route.
So, you know, that will be something for road safety, we could ask them to do something.
Doesn't help people parking on the corner either,
Corner of where?
of Blood Street, not on the junction, but
What, my junction?
no, the other side on the blind bend.
Where?
People park on the left, don't they, right on the corner. If you're cycling from Wedmore, you're going round that corner, you're already on the other side of the road. Like that guy.
At the junction of Blood Street and West End?
Yeah,
On the
no,
corner.
not your junction, if you're going back
At the
out
Coles.
up to, that's it, yeah, that corner there.
On the corner.
It will
Go
stand
across
there,
Broad
yeah.
Street, opposite you, go up there.
Outside Pete
And
Brown's
as
place.
you go round the bend. then
The
you
next
get
right angle bend?
Yeah,
And they park there, don't
yeah, I've seen,
And that's where the water's leaking down onto the road.
yeah, it's,
So-
yeah.
All right.
they? It's a combination problem because Blood Street is a route to school for
Which is-
school mums, and the problem is the road there and the 4x4s.
Yeah.
All right.
And, you know,
I think in light of Glennis's comments, I think perhaps we do go back to number 9 and I've asked Rod if he would write to highways to put for signage on Blood Street. Okay?
Well, ideally, fill the potholes in.
Fill potholes and put a sign saying beware of children.
Everywhere.
Bicycles.
Quite a few
So,
everywhere.
any idea where these signs could go? Alright, will you liaise with Rod so he's...
Yeah, that was what we're supposed to be doing.
That's what you were going to
Yeah.
do with Rod, yeah.
I knew it was something to call
Yeah.
We'll have an away day.
Alright, okay, yes. Hello.
We had a letter from a parishioner in Blackford about highways issues in the middle of Blackford a couple of weeks ago, and I wonder whether Rod responds to that or we as parish councillors in Blackford respond to it. Do you remember the lorry coming round and hitting the...
Oh, the chap on his...
and I'd like to know if that goes on the highways committee meeting or whether...
It wasn't directed to us, it was
Right.
directed to the district council.
We were
in
copied
Bedford.
in.
info
Okay,
to us, so I
so
didn't
I
reply.
just wanted some advice
Yeah.
really about how we respond, because I'd like...
We don't need to respond, it
Oh, we
wasn't
don't.
directed to us.
Okay, as long as...
I think we're just copied
There's a
in on it, so I
responsibility.
think I did email him back and say thanks
Okay.
for copying me, and you've
Yeah.
obviously notified the right people, the
Yeah.
highways department.
Okay.
It's difficult to know what
It
can be
is,
done, to be
it
quite
is,
honest, because
yeah.
it's a right angle bend,
It
so
is.
it's going to get whacked all the time.
Yeah, it's got this big concrete
Yeah.
island
Like,
outside
it's,
there.
yeah, it's a step up,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
And there's another issue with cars parking on the other side of that corner as well often, which makes it really dangerous.
It does, because if it parked outside, well, I forget what it's called, U tree or whatever,
Yeah,
Cullingham's.
can't see, right, you've got to come into the
Just
middle of
along
the road.
there, it does make the longer vehicles come over.
It's at the old bakery, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
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 Okay, as long as there's good we know what the process is, I'm happy. I was just
Yeah.
worried that
Yeah.
as a parish council you
Yeah.
weren't responding, that's good. Okay, thank you.
So see you very quickly. Meeting's over.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.